Well, I've been in making MMOs for a long time now, and then when Matt Firer said, hey, you should come up here and work on Elder Scrolls Online, I jumped at the opportunity to come up here and work with these guys on it. I've been here for about 3.5, almost 4 years now. It occurs in the second era, I think. Roughly 700 some years before Oblivion and about 1,000 years before Skyrim. Everybody can play it, but we definitely want to make sure Elder Scrolls players feel at home. It is an Elder Scrolls game, so we have the mouse-driven combat that people are familiar with. We have the schools that people are familiar with the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild, and of course the world that people have grown to love, especially me with Cyrodiil. I used to play Oblivion to the late hours of the night, so people running around that PvP space will feel right at home. It makes the most sense to evolve the genre. People have gotten tired of the same rotation-based combat, so we wanted to do something different, something new, and it fits perfectly with Elder Scrolls. So that's why we went much more with mouse-driven action combat type of feel to it. Honestly, the biggest difference will be the PvP element, I think. The fact that you're fighting other players for the first time in an Elder Scrolls space is pretty huge. You're fighting players who are reacting to you, who are trying to kill you, who are trying to heal you. So that's a lot of things that are different. Trying to actually heal other players as opposed to healing yourself is also a pretty big difference. We went with 50. I think the number was 50 because it was familiar to those of us that have worked on MMOs before. Also, we wanted to make sure that the level, the time spent in the level up to 50 was the appropriate amount of hours. And it just seemed like 50 with roughly 120 to 140 hours in an alliance, in one specific alliance worth of content felt right. That's kind of why we went with 50, I believe. There's a main quest where you're fighting to get your soul back, but there's also lots of little quests scattered throughout the world that every town has problems with that they need help from. Out to go fight some bandits that have recently been hitting the town, or send you over to a cave nearby to get some artifacts from there. So there's lots of quests out there with lots of little stories, along with the main story, where you're pretty much recovering your soul and then in the process saving the world. There's the quests, there's killing monsters, there's doing dungeon runs, but specifically in PvP. Killing other players gives you experience. Capturing keeps, defending keeps, capturing resources that support the keep and defending them, all of those give you experience as well as alliance points. There will be guilds in the game, and we have a rudimentary achievement system in there as it is right now. We're looking to refine both of those to make sure that players can feel at home, that they have guild mates that they can play with, that they're familiar with, and an achievement system of you actually did achieve something important. Like getting level 50 is an achievement, getting a certain alliance rank is an achievement, killing somebody who recently killed you. Like, these are things that we believe are important to reinforce, and you know, reinforcing that with your friends is even better. So yeah, there definitely will be guilds as well as an achievement. Ah, it's huge. Cyrodiil alone is very large. Honestly, trying to figure out the comparison is, I can't give a specific number, but the amount of playtime per alliance is about 120 to 140 hours just in one alliance. And you can play with one character in all 3 alliances. And there's also Cyrodiil itself. I wish I could give you a kilometers number, but honestly I don't know what it is, but it is huge. It is tremendously large. Cyrodiil alone is scaled up from the Cyrodiil in Oblivion. So the space is built for people to be roaming around and fighting each other without having to have to trip over each other all the time. So we did make it very large, and in terms of the accommodation factor of how big are the PvE zones, again, the whole territory of like the Daggerfall Alliance is at least 120 to 140 hours. Well, in Elder Scrolls Online, we just have Cyrodiil, which is a very large PvP space. If we find that post-launch, when we plan to support the game, that people ask for Battlegrounds, we'll add them in. There's definitely a case where we want to make sure people are playing Cyrodiil, that people are, you know, falling in love with their alliance in their space. But if we find that there are tons and tons of requests for, hey, put in Battlegrounds, we'll listen to the players and add those things in there. If they want more keeps in Cyrodiil or underground things to do in Cyrodiil, we'll add those things in there. It's just a matter of post-launch, what do people want us to put in, and we'll listen to the players. That's why we are an online service that continues to go for years and years to come, as opposed to just ship it, get it out of the box, and we're done. We plan on supporting the game, and if people want Battlegrounds, then we'll put them in. Into Cyrodiil, you get in at level 10, and we bump up your magicka, your stamina, your health, and then we also bump up basically how much damage your weapons do and how much armor you have. That'll make you effective against pretty much everybody in the space. We won't give you new abilities, but you will be able to earn experience as you're in Cyrodiil by doing quests and killing players and taking keeps. So level 10 to start, but it goes all the way up to 50. In terms of how Cyrodiil functions, there's keeps are linked together by a transit line. And if you go from one keep to another, when you own them, you pretty much travel across a large space right away. Each territory is split up where there's basically several keeps for Aldmeri, several keeps for Daggerfall, several keeps for Ebonheart Pact. And you can travel within your own network, but if you start taking keeps away from the enemy, you can travel into their territory as well. But it's all one contiguous zone, it's all one space, so you're not worrying about hitting zone lines or anything along that. But the fast travel definitely makes it worth it to go from deep into enemy territory, take out their keeps. Not only does it let you get into their space, but it pisses them off something fierce. That gets back to the post-launch statement, where if people ask for that, we'll add that in there. Right now on launch, we're not going to have anything like that because, again, we want to try to enforce the sense of being in an alliance with an army fighting another alliance that's an army. That to be said, for solo players and for small groups, there are things to do in Cyrodiil. You can take basically a farm or a lumber mill that basically supports a keep and helps it get more hit points and more stronger guards. That's built for about 3 to 4 players to take. And for a solo player, there's between those territories that I was speaking about, there are bottlenecks that you can pretty much camp as a solo player. You can wait for people to leave their Daggerfall territory to come into Aldmeri territory, for example, and you can attack them as they're coming through a gate or over a bridge. So there's something to do for solo players and the small groups, not just the huge groups like Keep takes. Every race gets a racial skill line. So you have your class, which gives you 3 skill lines, or sorry, your class gets 3 subsets in a skill line. But there's also the weapons and the armor. There's a racial skill line, and then there'll be a PvP skill line, as well as skill lines from the guilds. So there's lots of customization out there. For PvP, we're gonna probably add a skill line which kind of focuses on making your siege weaponry better. You get maybe the ability to fire a super shot, or you can switch out the ammo quicker. There are lots of ways that we can make it so that as a PvP player, you're going to be better at PvP by doing PvP.